Wow, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree. And here we are at the not so world famous PGH Writing Command Center for another podcast episode. And this is a special Christmas Eve podcast episode from God Bless the Keg Publishing LLC. And we're just thrilled you're here to join us on this amazing Christmas Eve. And I am Paul John Hausleben of God Bless the Cake Publishing LLC. And I am the flagship author, chief photographer, music reviewer, music critic, and kind of do everything guy here at God Bless the Cake Publishing LLC. And we have a small crowd here gathered, so I can't do this without a little help from my friends. And some of my friends are here tonight. And we're here, and the Christmas tree is all glowing. We've got the ornament on the goalie mask. We got the pine cones and holly berries lit up. We got our little Christmas village. We have some Christmas candles that are scented like balsam and cedar, and we got a few presents wrapped underneath the tree. And we're waiting for Santa Claus to come down the old Chimmaruski here and deliver us all kinds of goodies and happiness and peace and love and joy on this blessed Christmas Eve. And we're just thrilled you're here to join us for this special holiday podcast episode. And before we get too deep into it, let's thank our sponsor here. So get those little Orphan Annie decoder pins out, and maybe there's a Red Ryder BB gun under your Christmas tree, right? This podcast is proudly sponsored by Corporate Facilities Group Incorporated, the leader in technical consulting, facilities maintenance, facilities management, and operations, as well as property maintenance management services throughout America. And now CFG offers pre-construction services and estimating for residential development, residential renovations, and light commercial projects for CFG Incorporated. Check them out on the web at www.corporatefacilitiesgroup1.com. That's www.corporatefacilitiesgroup1.com. And many thanks and a very happy Christmas to Lydia, Steve, Liliana, Summer the dog, and Smokey the kitty cat. A blessed and happy Christmas to CFG Incorporated. Thank you for sponsoring this podcast all year. And thank you so much for having faith in this crazy guy from New Jersey. We really thank you for that. And so do all my friends. So I hope you're hunkered down now, and maybe you got a little Christmas music going on in the background, and you're not playing any of the 5 most annoying Christmas songs of all time, according to Paulie's podcast. And you're enjoying your Christmas Eve, waiting for Santa Claus. And, in my family, we never opened the presents on Christmas Eve. Now, Harry's family always waited to midnight and they opened the presents. So I wonder what your family traditions are. But I hope you're waiting for Santa Claus and you're relaxing. And maybe there's some snow coming down outside your window and you got a little glass of red wine. Maybe it's like that scene in A Christmas Story there when the old man and his wife are sitting there on the sofa with the Christmas tree all lit up. And they're just enjoying the peace and quiet and solitude. After all the hustle and bustle of the Christmas season and all the parties and all the commitments and all the things you have to do when you're running around and your credit cards are exploding and your wallet has erupted into flames, it's nice to enjoy Christmas Eve. And I would like for this special holiday podcast episode to tell a story, a very old story. In fact, it's one of the first stories I ever wrote when I was about 16 and a half, called The Christmas Tree. And it's based upon an actual nonfiction event with my family. And it's the year that the old man, our father, finally decided and conceded to toss his fake tree aside. He called it the fake Christmas tree, not an artificial Christmas tree. The old man didn't sugarcoat anything. He went straight for the juggler. It's a fake tree. But I'd like to tell the story about the one Christmas where the old man allowed a break of his endless holiday rules and regulations. And we went out, and it wasn't easy. We got a real Christmas tree. So, and if you listen to the other podcasts or you read my books, I think I mentioned it in the Thanksgiving podcast, probably in the 4th of July too. Uh, my father, our father, the old man, as he preferred to be called the old man. It was a term of endearment, and he really preferred that. And my sister, she called him daddy. My sister older than me, and she could get away with a lot of things. I might just call him dad, but refer to him affectionately as the old man later on. But he had these endless rules and regulations for holidays, and he didn't want to defer from them. He felt that holidays were special days, and he had these traditions, and he didn't want to break it for fear of messing up the holiday and having to wait a whole nother year for it to come around. And I think the old man loved Thanksgiving, certainly. And he certainly loved the 4th of July. He loved blowing up firecrackers and stuff. So you can listen to those holiday podcast episodes. But above all, I believe he loved Christmas the best. And we didn't have too much going growing up. The old man was a machinist, and he did work extremely hard, work two jobs, three jobs sometimes, and he work on cars in the driveway and make extra money with my Uncle Ed and do everything he could do to make the household as comfortable and as nice and warm as he possibly could. And we were very blessed. The old man was an extremely hard worker, as most of the old neighborhood was back then. We were all blessed with great fathers and wonderful mothers, and we were blessed that dear mom, our dear English mom, was able to stay home with us, and the old man worked. Those days are pretty much gone now, and I think it's special in the fact that we had this wonderful setting to grow up in. And the old man went off to work every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, and somehow that sounds really familiar. And when Christmas came, the old man was worn out. And one of the great things that I remember as a child growing up was the fact that in North Jersey at the time, in production and manufacturing, this is a time in a day and an age where we actually made stuff here in this country. And it was a lot of manufacturing in Patterson and in outlying areas. And the old man worked in a machine shop. And Harry's old man, they worked in stainless steel, making stainless steel diners. And the Christmas came, and it was sacred. When Christmas came, a couple days before, things really wound down. And I know business is business, but now it's relentless, right to the bitter end, and people don't take the time like they used to. And manufacturing would shut down because the truck drivers would all be off on holidays and parts couldn't get delivered and all that stuff. But they respected Christmas and the holiday. And the old man had off starting Christmas Eve. I think the shop would close around 12 noon. And he always got a Christmas turkey. It came in a cardboard box. I can still see that cardboard box to this day. And he was very proud of the fact that he earned a turkey during the year. And he'd shut down on Christmas Eve, and he'd stop at the liquor store and pick up some Christmas cheer, and he'd bring it home with the turkey. And him arriving on Christmas Eve in my mind is just as vivid as the day it happened. And his joy at being off of work, and our joy as a family of finally putting on the shelf for a little while, the hustle and bustle and running around. And the old man would be relaxed. And Christmas was here. And he would go all out and do the best he could with the money we had. And we were very fortunate, very fortunate. And the family would be together. And my Gramps, as we call him, my grandfather lived upstairs in the apartment upstairs. And Uncle Ed and all the cousins and everybody would come over. And one of the things that the old man loved was staying home for Christmas. He put his golden age of Christmas music on his Victrola, and he'd spin record after record, and he'd have WPAT on the radio, and we'd be decorating. And he had this wonderful, beautiful Christmas village, and we'd move all the furniture out of the living room, put it in spare rooms, and to make room for the Christmas tree. and his Christmas village was on a piece of plywood, and he built it himself, and he built all the little houses, and he had the figurines, and at one time it had a train going around, and he had a church that played Christmas music. And it really was a special, special time, a very special time for us. And it was really something magical. And the memories are so, so vivid. And then, the big day would creep closer and closer. And the old man didn't want to run around. We would get head colds for Christmas or a little flu bug or something. And I think he'd be sad that we weren't feeling well, but he'd be secretly happy that he didn't have to schlep off to grandma's, and he'd make everybody come to the house. And I understand he was worn out. He wanted to relax. He wanted to enjoy Christmas. Now, of course, central to the whole Christmas scene and the beautiful Christmas celebrations, and he had his Christmas village, and we decorate with candles and Christmas cards. We had this felt Christmas card holder that I remember to this day. And as a Christmas, it was like a long Santa Claus with pockets on his suit. And my mother would hang it up on a closet door in the living room. And as the Christmas cards would come in, we'd look at them, and she'd stuff up Santa Claus's suit with the Christmas cards. And I love getting Christmas cards. And of course, that's something that's few and far between now. I have a little arch here at the Writing Command Center between the living room and the dining room, and I've got the Christmas cards up there. And I don't have too many this year, but I love getting Christmas cards. You send Paulie a Christmas card, I'm going to send you one back. I love greeting cards. I think it's something that we need to perpetuate. It's so personal, and that's gone. But I remember that Christmas card holder. So the old man's Christmas tree was something that he would decorate. We would make a big deal about it, maybe a Saturday afternoon, because he didn't get off to the Christmas Eve, but he put it up like maybe the day after Thanksgiving or the Saturday after Thanksgiving. We'd have a little decorating party, and the old man would have his beer, and my mom would make cider and snicky snacks, and we'd have chocolates and stuff. And the old man would play Christmas music, and it was the kickoff to the season. But what he insisted upon was a fake tree, never a real tree. And part of this stems from some kind of incident in the old Patterson neighborhood over on Ryerson Ave about a family that apparently their house caught on fire, or something tragic happened when their real tree was caught on fire. And I imagine it was a really traumatic incident for the old man. I think he was a little boy, and he grew up. He was only a little guy during the Depression, but still has memories of that. And it was tragic, and the family had to go get separated for Christmas, and they blamed it on the dried up old relic of a Christmas tree. And the old man would say, you can't have Christmas with a real Christmas tree because you can't enjoy it. You can only light it up for a little while, because most of these Christmas trees you get are old, dried up old relics. They were cut down in August, and none of them are fresh. You can't get a fresh Christmas tree. And you plug in your lights, and you're afraid it's going to catch on fire. And we had those big old C5 bulbs, the red, the green, the blue. It came in only 3 colors, and it probably had lead paint on it. And as the little chips of paint would fall off, you'd see the clear light coming through. and sometimes he put those big silver reflector, gold reflector tinfoil things behind the lights. And some years we wouldn't do that. And putting on the lights was always a tedious thing, because one of the lights would go out and the whole string would go out, and you'd have to troubleshoot it. It would take forever. And we were little kids, we'd get bored. And the old man have to fix the shorts, and he'd drink more and more beer, and he'd finally get the lights all lit up. And you could heat the house with the Christmas tree lights. They used so much electricity. So this one Christmas, my sister, older than me, and she was more savvy. I was kind of like the dopey little brother, following around, and I followed my sister's lead. But my sister was smooth. And she is still very smart. And my sister knew the rules of kiddom when you're a kid around Christmas. It's like the Red Ryder BB gun thing. So you have to plant the seeds and start haunting your parents. Somewhere around Thanksgiving. You don't want to crack the eggs too soon. But whatever you're going for, the special Christmas present or whatever you're seeking, you got to plant the seeds early because this is like a marathon, you see. When you're a kid, you know the pestering of your parents is key, and you got to plant the seeds early as Christmas starts to come on the horizon. And my sister started planting the seeds about the real Christmas tree in and around Thanksgiving. And we'd be sitting around the kitchen table, and she'd say, "Oh, Daddy, Maureen and her family are having a beautiful, real Christmas tree. It would be so nice to have a real Christmas tree." And the old man would say, "You'll burn your house down. They're all dried up old relics. We're not doing that." But my sister wouldn't give up. She'd plant the seeds and continue to pester and harass and keep pushing. And slowly, she'd kind of baptize me and bring me into the fray. But I wasn't as good at it. And I didn't have the daddy's little girl, the batting of the eyes and all that stuff. I was just the dopey son who had to help the old man fix the Rambler in the parking lot and in the driveway and on the side of the road when it broke down. And I had to take the trash out and do all the stuff that I had to do. So the old man would discount me and just kind of push me aside. I didn't have the level of persistence required. So most of the onus of this real Christmas tree, and my sister and I would talk about and plot behind the scenes, and she really kind of got me on the bandwagon too, and she secretly got dear mom on the bandwagon of a real Christmas tree this year. So it just dragged on at supper time, and every time the old man would shut her down, and he'd shut me down. And Mom didn't venture out and tell her real secrets yet. She was playing it close to the wraps. And there were a number of strategic errors on each side. One supper time debate, my sister blew it, and she mentioned we had a German family in our neighborhood. They were over on John Street, close to where Harry lived, the Mueller family, and they came from Germany, and every year they would. This was incredibly dangerous. They'd have the Christmas tree, and they put the real candles on the branches like the German trees. And my sister mentioned that. And my old man just was like, "We'll read about them in the paper. Their house is going to burn down one of these Christmases." And my sister realized that was probably a strategic error to mention that particular tree. But the real strategic error, surprisingly, was committed by the old man. He comes home, and it's like maybe the Friday before we're going to put the Christmas tree up in early December. And he comes home with these bags and bags, these shopping bags. He comes home from work and he puts it on the dining room table and he's all excited. And he already had his Christmas village up and we were starting to decorate. And he says, "Look what I got. I got these miniature Italian lights." And we all looked at it. And they were these beautiful little miniature Christmas lights. And he called them Italian lights. I don't know. Maybe it's like the Fragile in a Christmas Story. Or maybe they were manufactured in Italy or something. He says, all the guys in the shop are talking about these because they don't use so much electricity and they don't burn as hot. Uh-oh. So my sister, being as smart as she is, she pounced on that little opening. And she's like, "Oh, they don't get hot, so they can't burn your house down." And the old man didn't know what to do, you see. And he realized his eyes went back and forth in his head, and he swallowed real hard. And he kind of packed up the lights a little bit and ran to the refrigerator, got a beer to soften his blows. And he's like, "Well, we got to save electricity. We're poor. We don't have enough money for these big bulbs. And yeah, these burn cooler and everything." And then he diverted our attention and plugged them in the wall to show us how beautiful they were. But here was the first chink in the armor. And the arrows that my sister and I were hurling in the air might have penetrated the old man's fake Christmas tree armor. But the real blow came on the Saturday when we started to put the Christmas tree up. Now, we had this fake tree for 20 years. I don't know. I don't remember. I was probably not even born when they got it. But it was a green wooden post. and the particular branches. And my old man, you never can repack a Christmas tree, a fake Christmas tree, in the box they give you. It's always too small, and you squish it down and you put it in. They give you a millimeter of clearance for the product that's in the box. So my old man would ditch it and he put it in a big giant old like washer machine box, so he didn't have to crush the branches down. And you guys know how it works, but this, you got the big guys on the bottom and then the medium guys in the middle, and it's like a cone of a Christmas tree. Well, our artificial tree was color coded with paint on the metal stems. So you got this green post going up, which is the center, and then you looked at it. And the old man had written down on a piece of paper that purple guys were the first row, the green guys were the second row, and yellow and red and blue and blah, blah, blah. But the problem was our tree was so old, all the paint was coming off the stems. So you would have to hold the branches up and you'd have to examine and you say, oh, I think I see blue. This is a blue. And then you match it up with another one and you try to get it. And we couldn't get it right. And we was building this Christmas tree, and it was like a sadistic jigsaw puzzle. And you couldn't read the color codes, and the old man's getting frustrated. He wants to put his new Italian lights on there, and every time we get the branches, and my sister's like, I think the first row is wrong. I think the middle row goes on the first row, and then my mother bring him another beer, and he'd get madder and madder. He's like, take it all apart. So we took it all apart. And the old man drink another beer, and he's, hey, Joan, get me another beer. Get me another beer. And we try to put it together another time. The top was easy because the branches were small. It was the middle and the bottom that was tricky. And it was just not looking right. And the old man's getting madder and madder. And finally, dear Mom, as she carried in another strategic beer, and the old man was getting really soft and maybe leaning towards half in the bag. And she says, Paul, this is the year we should have a real Christmas tree. The kids want a real Christmas tree. This Christmas tree is a disaster. It's so old, you can't get it together anymore. And we could have a real Christmas tree this year. And to be honest, I would like to have a real Christmas tree this Christmas too. And the old man perked up and he's like, you do? And, lovey-dovey stuff, And she's like, I do, Paul. I would love to have a real Christmas tree just one year. And the old man was softening up, and his wife is hitting him. And then Dottie, my sister, swoops in for the kill, and I'm doing my best. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, real Christmas tree this year. And the old man's looking at the twisted relic of a mess of a fake tree. And we could tell he was getting soft, and my mother gave him another beer. And then my mother, she struck the most strategic blow of all, because there's nothing a guy from New Jersey likes better than a deal. And she says, the after Christmas sales, you can probably pick up a new fake tree for 75% off over at the Brady's. Because the old man couldn't pronounce anything. Bradley's was Brady's. I love to shop at Brady's. And his eyes lit up, and that was it. The deal put it over the edge. And he's like, okay, pack up this tree. We're going to go for a real Christmas tree. And the joy had returned to Mudville. Mighty Casey didn't strike out. So it was really dear Mom who struck the strategic final blow. But persistence when you're a kid and harassing your parents is an art finally paid off. Now the old man's kind of, we'll say half in the bag, so we can't tool off looking for a real Christmas tree yet. And so we shelved the Christmas tree decorating party, and the old man packed up the old twisted old relic of the old fake tree, and he put it out at the trash. I remember looking out my bedroom window at the carcass out there and all the Christmas celebrations of old and a couple lingering pieces of tinsel, and it was kind of sad. But the prospect of having a real tree offset the sadness of saying goodbye to our old Christmas tree. And very fortunate, that particular Saturday night, while the old man sobered up and he played his records on his Victrola, and he lit up his Christmas village, and he pondered about how he's going to, get through Christmas with a real Christmas tree without burning the house down. And he kept talking about how we got to make sure it's fresh. And I know my Christmas trees, and I know how we're going to test it. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But it snowed that night. So the old man, he loved it. He was like, we could have this fantastic Christmas tree hunting party, a mission. But first, we got this really good snow. So we have to go sleigh ride on Sunday morning. Now, here's a strange nuance in northern New Jersey, and I'd love for my northern New Jersey buddies and my old neighborhood folks to chime in, because I don't know why we call it sleigh riding in northern Jersey, but we all called it sleigh riding. Now, technically, a sleigh is like jingle bells, right? The one horse. A one horse open sleigh. We had sleds. We had the flyaway or whatever they were called. The regular sleds, the two-runner sleds. You got the 2-man, the 3-man. You got the single sled. But we call it sleigh riding. So I don't know why. It's sledding. But so we tool off over to Washington Park over in Patterson, right on the old West Patterson border there. And the cool thing about Washington Park, so we're going to go sleigh riding. We're going to get hot chocolate, and we're going to have hot dogs at Libby's, and then we're going to go to these lots, these various lots in the city, and pick out a real Christmas tree. We're not going up to the mountains or anything like that. Our car could barely make it out of our driveway without breaking down. So we packed the sleds. We had the one single sled, and then we had the two-person sled guy. And we go over to Washington Park, and it had a fake Washington monument at that park. It was like a miniature replica. But the cool thing about that park is they had the kiddie hill, and then they had the big guy hill. And the big guy hill was treacherous because if you didn't steer correctly, it brought you towards the woods. And that's like super dangerous. Every year, there's like in the newspaper, in the Patterson Evening News, there'd be a story about some kid who got wiped out and almost died because he crashed his sled into the woods at Washington Park. So that was for the experienced big guys and big gals, the teenagers, the seasoned sledders. Not those dopey little kids, especially not me. I was only a little guy. My old man would just barely let me go on the sled by myself. Most of the time, he put my sister in the front to steer and me in the back because he didn't trust me. So we tool on over there. And of course, you're never satisfied when you're a kid. And the harassment started. My poor old man. And we went up and down, and we were having a great time. There's 2,000 kids and families and everybody going down sleigh riding. And the hill is getting, that really good packed groom snow, and it's getting a little ice from the friction on there. And there's a couple guys in a toboggan, and they're making it really nice. And of course, because you're a dopey kid, you have to harass, and you're never satisfied. And my sister and I are plotting as we go down, and we pull the sled back up the hill, and the old man's watching us at the top. And he go down a couple times, too, having some fun. And Daddy, can't we go over by the big hill and the big boy and the big girl hill and go down one time? No, you'll crash. You'll go into the woods and you'll crash. They actually had an ambulance standing by waiting for these dopey kids to crash. The guy make extra pop. and there was a hot chocolate truck there, a food truck, but we're never satisfied. And the old man's watching his watch, and we want to get lunch and everything. He's like, no, you go down one or two more times, and that's it. We're going to put the sleds away. We're going to go over to Libby's. We're going to get hot dogs. We're going to warm up, and then we're going to go get our real Christmas tree. Beautiful day, right? Great memories. Christmas time, snow, sleds. But we're not satisfied, and we're pestering and pestering. Finally, the old man's like, okay, one time. You go down one time, and I'm going to position the sled as far away from the trees as you can. And you're going to steer, and your sister's going to be in the front, and Paulie, you get in the back, and you just hold on to your sister, and Dottie steer away from the trees. And now the snow because of the experienced sledders on the other side and the toboggan guys. Now the snow on this hill, it's like a hockey rink. It's got that friction of ice on it. So the old man puts us on lecturing, steer away from the trees, steer away from the trees, steer away from the trees. And Dottie Kit puts your boots on the thing, and we got the rope on the front of the sled, and he's testing the steering, and the steering's good. And the old man's pointing us. He says, now just go down straight. And boom, he gives us a push, and here we go. We're going down, 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 down. We're getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And we're staying straight as an arrow until this dopey kid is pulling his sled up and not paying attention to where he's pulling the sled, and we're coming down like a missile down the hill. And my sister's like, get out of the way, kid, get out of the way. And people are watching, and they're like, kid, look up, kid, look up. And and my father's screaming, and we're like, so my sister hits the boots and pulls the rope. And of course, we missed the kid, and now we're going straight for, guess what? The trees. And the tree magnet, the dreaded Washington Park tree magnet, sucks us in. And my sister tries to steer back. But the problem is the layer of ice now is so fortified that it's laughing at our runners. And here we are sliding now at 85 miles an hour towards the trees. And I can hear the old man, steer away from the trees, Dorothy, steer away from the trees. And I'm saying to my sister, Dottie, go the other way, go the other way. She says, I can't, Paulie, I'm just sliding on the ice. The old man gives a futile effort to run down the hill to save his kids. He's trying to run while he's bellowing. And now the whole hill is watching as our demise is on the horizon. And we can't stop and we can't steer, and the trees are getting closer and closer. And we hear the old man bellowing, steer away from the trees. The entire hill is saying, steer away from the trees. And finally, my sister, being the older and smarter, she says, that's it, Paulie. Ditch the sled. Jump. So she said, I'm going right. You go left. So that's what we did. We hit the ejector button. And my sister shot off, and I shot off the other way. And then we watched our poor sled go down the hill by itself. And sure enough, like an arrow, like a jousting competition, the sled impales itself into the trunk of a tree, and it explodes into 22,000 pieces. The tree magnet got us. Well, it got our sled, didn't get us. And now we're crying, our sled is dead. And the old man finally catches up to us, and he's like, I told you to steer away from the trees. And my sister's like, it was a dopey kid. He wasn't paying attention. My old man's like, I didn't see any dopey kid. And he goes down and gets the sled, and it looked like it was twisted like a pretzel. And he's like, I can fix this. I thought that was overly optimistic. But needless to say, our sleigh riding adventure was over. Now we're frozen, we're crying, we're cold, we're upset, and kind of the magic is gone from this. So we pick up the relic of a sled, and we put everything in the trunk of the Rambler. And this misadventure is far from over, you see. And the old man starts patting his coat, looking for the car keys. And the car keys are nowhere to be found. And the spare key is at home. And my mother doesn't drive, and we don't have another car anyway. The city bus would take us 2 hours because we'd have to take Connects to get back home. And the old man's like, when I ran down the hill, it must have popped out of my pants or out of my coat. So here we are now, combing through sleigh riders and kids and families and looking around, and people now are helping us. And my old man kept the car keys in this leather, like brown leather. I can still see it to this day, key holder. It's quite distinctive. And just by sheer intervention of the good Lord, because heaven was so sorry for us at this point, My sister found the keys down at the base of the hill near the impact zone. So my sister's redeemed for being a lousy sled driver, but a great lost car key finder. So now we finally have all the keys and we have everything. And the old man's frustrated and we're frustrated. Our sled is in a million pieces. And we stop at Libby's and we have a couple hot dogs and then we head out. And the old man heads out first to the Halden Fire Department. Every year they sold Christmas trees, you see, over in the shopping mall, in the parking lot of the little strip mall. And I had a food town in there, and Vistarama, and a post office, and a couple stores. And there's the Halden Fire Department, and they got the big soup kettle going, and they got the wood fire, and they have these Christmas trees. And the old man comes tooling in with the Rambler, and there's this guy standing there, and the guy starts complaining about my old man. He says, "Man, you come in here 1,000 miles an hour." The Rambler couldn't go 2 miles an hour, not 1,000 miles an hour. And the old man's like, "What are you talking about?" He says, there's kids all around and Christmas shoppers, and you come flying in here with your car. And the old man's like, "Who are you talking to?" So now my sister and I we're sulking in our seats and trying to hide because the guy that my old man's arguing with is actually like my little league baseball coach, and he's the fire chief. And my old man had this habit of calling people chief. What are you talking about, chief? It's a Jersey thing. You're full of it, chief. I wasn't speeding. You got some other car mixed up with mine. Now, how anybody could mix up a 1964 Rambler painted about 17 different colors of blue with another car is kind of beyond imagination. So they get this big argument. And the old man keeps calling him chief. And I'm like, "Dad, that is the chief." And my father's like, "What?" I said, "That's the fire chief. He's my coach. He's my little league baseball coach." And he's like, "Oh." So they get in this big argument, and the old man says, "I ain't buying no Christmas trees from you." And he gets back in the car, and off we go to the next place. And this whole Christmas tree adventure, the magic and the joy of tying the Christmas tree up and singing jingle bells on the way home is fading rapidly. So we go over to St. Gerard's Church on the corner of West Broadway and Chamberlain Ave because every year St. Gerard's allows this Christmas tree seller to set up his, the beautiful wooden racks with the cross tees. And the guy's got a trailer there. And every year that Christmas tree seller is on the corner there. And I think the church gets a cut of the Christmas tree sales, and it's there. It's like a tradition. You ride by it every year. It's there. So the old man's like, "We're going over to St. Gerard's. We're going to go over to that guy that's always there." And that's where we head. And we're walking through rows and rows of Christmas trees, and they smell so good, and they smell so fresh and beautiful. And the old man's picking up trees, and he's shaking them and examining them. And he says, "This is how you test a real Christmas tree to make sure it's fresh, that it wasn't cut down in August, that it's a dried up old relic that's going to burn your house down." And he would select a tree, and he'd examine it, and he'd pull it on the branches, and then he would take the trunk of the tree and tap it on the asphalt. Bum, 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 bum. And he'd examine the snow underneath to see how many needles fall off. He says, "This is the ultimate way you test Christmas trees to make sure they're fresh." Bang, 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 bang. "Oh, look at all these needles. This one's not fresh." So while we're walking through the rows and rows, and we got balsams, and he's got the blue spruces, and he's got the Fraser firs, and he's got them all organized. Underneath one of the big racks comes this gigantic guy. And the best way I could describe him, he had a big giant beard, big wool hat, big wool coat on, and he was 6'9". He looked like Paul Bunyan. We met Paul Bunyan. And he's like, "Oh, hey, Merry Christmas. I see you're here with your kids trying to pick out a real Christmas tree. We got the most fresh trees in all of North Jersey. My brother and I are here for years and years. We got a Christmas tree stand up in Sussex County. We got another one over in the Poconos. And we don't cut our trees down in August. We cut them just a week or two ago. All these trees are super fresh." And the old man's a little taken back by the size of the giant Christmas tree guy. And he's like doubting Thomas, of course. He's like, "Well, I'm a Christmas tree expert. I'll determine if they're fresh or not." I'm teaching my kids because we want to enjoy our real Christmas tree. We don't want it all dried out the day after Christmas, have to throw it out because it's going to burn our house down. And the giant guy, he's like, you don't have to worry about that. I'm telling you, you will only find the freshest trees here. Test them. And the old man's showing him the test method, and he's got the doubts in his mind. And finally, after about 20 rows, the old man's testing a Fraser fir. And we really liked this tree. It was perfect size. And the giant guy's going behind us, doing the sales pitch and yap, yap, yap. It's getting on the old man's nerves. But the old man's careful because this guy will crush us like a bug. my, my old man was about 6'2". He's a big guy. But this guy, my father next to the giant Christmas tree guy, he looked like a miniature man. The man was huge in his beard and his persona. He had a big Santa Claus ho, ho, ho laugh. And finally, the Fraser fir was the tree. And it passed the old man's fresh test, and he got his eyes in there, and he studied everything. He's tugging on the branches while the giant Christmas tree guy, he's like, this is a fresh tree. You won't find a fresher tree anywhere. And I can remember that Christmas tree lot to this day. It had the trailer, had the big giant kettle there with wood fire burning, and it smelled so great. He says, if I by chance find a bad tree, I toss it in the bucket to keep me warm in the big kettle. So these are only the freshest tree. And I think the guy wanted $15 for it, and the old man tried to whittle him down, and he got it for $12. So finally, we were singing with joy, and we were so happy, and we were thanking my father, and he got some rope, and the giant guy tied it up on top of the Rambler, and we were heading home singing jingle bells and oh Christmas tree, and my sister and I are thrilled after exploding sleds and dopey kids on the hill and lost car keys and calling the chief and getting accused of speeding and all these adventures. We finally found a fresh Christmas tree that was not a dried up old relic, and we were heading home with it. And we pulled in the driveway there, and my mother's looking out the window, and then she comes and puts her coat on because we were so late, it's starting to get dark now. And she's like, I was getting worried about you guys. You were, well, she wouldn't say you guys because she got the English thing going on, but that's me. And she said, oh, you got a real Christmas tree? And my sister's thrilled. And the old man's like, yeah, well, we had some adventures. That's like saying Napoleon had a few adventures too. But anyway, we start to untie the Christmas tree, and my mother's like, oh, I made a nice roast beef, and I have mashed potatoes, and I have the gravy and the green beans. You'll warm up, come inside. We got tea. I'll get you a beer. And here came the fateful moment, the moment that I'll never forget. And we untie the Christmas tree, and we swing it off the top of the Rambler, and it bumps on the driveway. And we had shoveled the driveway. It hadn't snowed since the previous night. And it was just blacktop there, asphalt. And when the tree trunk hit the asphalt, a couple little needles fell off. And when I mean by a couple little needles, I'm saying 2 or 3 needles came off. And the old man like a hawk coming down on a mouse, his eyes he's like, what was that? And I looked, I said, oh, there's a couple little needles fell off, Dad. He's like, what? Needles came off? And my sister, I could hear all the wind go out of my sister's breath. And my mother's like, oh no. I was like, Dad, I got down on the ground. I said, it's like two needles came off. He said, the needles weren't coming off when I tested it in the Christmas tree lot with that giant guy. And I'm not buying that him and his brother cut down those trees in Pennsylvania and Sussex. I'm not believing that for 1 minute. And he grabs the Christmas tree and he starts pounding it on our driveway. And a couple more needles fall off. Tinkle, 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 tinkle. And the old man's eyes, they gravitate towards it. And my sister could sense the doom. And my mother could sense the doom. My sister just sprinted to the house crying. And my mother turned around to go after my sister. They left me to fend with the not-so-fresh Christmas tree and an infatuated old man by myself. And I'm only a little kid. And it gets worse and worse. Now the old man's picking this Christmas tree up like a jackhammer. And he's coming down on the driveway. Bang, bang, bang. I was like, Dad, you're splitting the Christmas tree trunk. Don't you tell me if we got a dried up relic of a Christmas tree, it'll burn our house down. And now the needles are coming off because he's like a sledgehammer, banging, banging, banging. He says, this isn't a good tree. The giant guy blew us a bunch of horn blowing nonsense. This tree's a dried up old relic. I was like, Dad, it's like 10 needles. And then it hit the old man, almost like when the Grinch's heart grows like 10 times. He has this idea. And he says, go downstairs, get me a pair of pliers. I was like, what? He says, go down in the shop in the basement and bring me out a pair of pliers. And now it's getting cold and it's getting dark and supper's waiting for us and we're hungry. And the old man I get the pliers and I give it to the old man. And he puts the pliers around each branch of the Christmas tree towards the trunk. And he goes, zoop, and he strips the needles off. And he goes to another branch, zoop, and he strips the needles off. He says, see? You see how easily the needles come off? I was like, well, Dad, I don't think you're supposed to take it. Don't tell me. I'm a Christmas tree expert. Zip, zip, zip. And he's going through them. My mother's looking out the window, shaking her head. And my sister's crying in her bedroom. And before you know it, our beautiful Fraser fur looks like the emperor with no clothes. It's just naked. It's got like 14 needles left on it. And he's like, that's it. We're taking it back. And I thought to myself, we're taking it back, Dad? You just destroyed our Christmas tree. He's like, this wasn't a fresh tree. We're bringing it back to the giant guy. I don't care how big he is. He's going to give us our money back. So we tie up the skeleton of the Christmas tree on top of the rambler. And the old man's, he's no longer cold. His face is like red as a beet. And I get sucked into this mission, and and it's only a block or two from our house to St. Gerard's. And I'm thinking, the giant Christmas tree guy is going to squish us like a bug. And Christmas is definitely ruined because he's going to like squish us. So we pull into the Christmas tree lot now, and the wood fire thing's going. And the giant Christmas tree guy is over there by the kettle, and we pull in. And my old man gets out all full of fire and wire, and he goes stomping over, and he says, hey, pal, chief. He says, you sold us a bomb of a tree. He says, all the needles fell off. And the giant Christmas tree seller guy's like, what? We only have the freshest tree. And my old man's like, yeah, I heard that story. You come look at this Christmas tree. The giant Christmas tree guy, he's looming like Mount Everest over us, and he goes stomping. His feet were like snowshoes, but he didn't have any snowshoes on. He's stomping over through the trees, and there's no other customers there. It's getting late, and they got the little light bulbs all there, and it's getting colder and colder. And you could tell this giant guy is impervious to the cold, and my old man's impervious to cold. I'm frozen to death at this point. And he comes over and he's like, Paulie, help me untie it off the rambler. So we untie the tree, and the old man holds it up like a trophy. And the Christmas tree guy, the giant guy, his eyeballs, he's like, what happened to your tree? He says, what happened? And the old man's like, I told you, all the needles fell off. He says, you mean you tied it up, and by the time you got home, this is what your Christmas tree looked like? Well, not exactly. But the old man skated around that without coming out and, an outright. He left out the part about the pliers. and the Christmas tree guy, he's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this. And my old man's like, yeah, it's going to burn our house down. And I thought to myself, we wouldn't even be able to decorate it. At this point, it's just branches and a trunk. So the giant Christmas tree guy, my old man's settling in for a battle. He's settling in for a good old Patterson, New Jersey versus another New Jersey guy. And it's going to be a toe-to-toe. And the old man don't care if he's 6'9". He's got a giant beard. He's got to get him. And the old man's like, you sold me a bad tree, and you charged me $12. And the giant Christmas tree guy's like, well, it was really supposed to be 15. I gave you a couple bucks off. Yeah, you gave me a couple bucks off because it was a bomb of a tree. And the giant Christmas tree guy's like, well, I'm so sorry. We stand behind every Christmas tree we sell, my brother and I. So you and your son, you just go over there and you pick out a new Christmas tree at no charge. I'm very, very sorry this happened. And the old man didn't know what to do. He's like, really? No fight, no battle, no toe-to-toe Jersey debating? He's like, yeah, yeah. In fact, you can pick any. If you want a spruce, you want a more expensive tree, you want a taller tree, you want a fatter tree, whatever you want, free. I'll take this tree and I'll throw it in the kettle. And the old man was like diffused. He didn't know what to do. He was anticipating a battle of a lifetime against a giant Christmas tree guy. And it was then that the true spirit of Christmas occurred. And it filled the old man. This giant guy who could squish us like a bug was the nicest guy in the world. And he really seemed sincere and sorry. And it only took us, unlike the first time, it only took us like 2 minutes. And the old man went to the Christmas tree rows and he picked out a tree, which was a spruce. Of course, he was going to get an upgrade. And he only tapped it once or twice. He says, "This is a good tree." I said, oh, okay, Dad. He said, yep, no needles. And he said, we'll tie it up on the car. And at this point, I could see the giant Christmas tree guy was over by the fire, and he's examining the tree. He had to see that there was something else happening here. And when we came close with our new tree, he just tossed it into the fire, the old relic. And he comes over as happy as could be, ho, ho, ho. And he's like, "Oh, that's a beautiful tree. Got a beautiful tree there. You got a beautiful tree." And the old man's like, "Yeah, it's a beautiful tree, but I insist on paying for it." And the giant Christmas tree guy's like, no, you don't owe me nothing. That was a bad tree." And the old man's like, no, I want to pay you for it. And the old man opened his wallet and he took out his blessed beer money that he always hid from my mother. And he says, I'm going to give you $20 for this tree. That's a tip. And then and the giant Christmas tree guy is like, "Hey, you don't have to do that." He's like, no, I'm going to do that. And we tied the tree up on the Rambler. And while we're doing that, my old man popped the trunk of the Rambler open. Our destroyed sled was in there, but he fished around because for being a high achiever at the shop, some of the big bosses chipped together and they got him a bottle of expensive scotch for a Christmas present. And the old man took his expensive scotch out of the box there, the scotch he earned for being the best machinist. And he goes over to the giant Christmas tree guy who helped me tie it up, and he says, "Here, Merry Christmas." And the giant Christmas tree guy looks at it. He says, "This is very expensive scotch." He says, "Yeah, Merry Christmas." And the giant Christmas tree guy says, "Well, it's cold. You come on over to the fire. I got a couple glasses in my trailer, and we'll have a Christmas toast." And they uncorked that expensive bottle of scotch, and I never, ever will forget that scene. The Christmas trees, the Christmas lights, getting cold, now the sun's down, and this giant Christmas tree guy with a heart of gold and the Christmas spirit, and there he's with the old man, and they toast Christmas. I'm only a little kid. I can remember the flames, and they're laughing, and now they're telling Patterson stories. Merry Christmas. And then we tooled on home, and my father told the story of the fantastic Christmas tree, the giant guy with a heart of gold, the true spirit of Christmas. No fight, no battle, just Christmas. And we decorated that Christmas tree, and we put the Italian miniature lights on there, and it was the most beautiful Christmas tree I ever saw. And we had the most fantastic Christmas. The old man was like he was floating on air because he found so much more than just a real Christmas tree. He found Christmas spirit, and we kept it up. My father never bought into the English thing with the 12 days of Christmas because his rules were it came down the day after New Year's when he had to go back to the shop. But this year, we kept the real Christmas tree up until the 12 days of Christmas were over and the Three Kings Day, the Feast of Epiphany, and then he took it down. And he was very sad. He took it out in the backyard, and now it's still sort of kind of fresh. And I think he wanted always to keep a piece of that Christmas tree with him. So he sawed up the Christmas tree into little pieces, and some he put in his compost pile for his garden, and some he kept in a little pile as a reminder. And he would burn it once in a while in an open pit fire to keep warm during the winter. But it was like he wanted to cherish that Christmas tree forever. So despite all the misadventures, we finally succeeded. And then after Christmas, he went out there and bought a new fake tree. And that was really the only real Christmas tree I ever remember us having. The Christmas tree. And just a few weeks ago, I went over to the hardware store that's around the corner from here, and they have this open lot, and they have the wooden stands. And no, there was no giant Christmas tree guy. There was no lumberjack, no open kettle, no trailer, no bottles of booze. And there was a young father there. And I was walking to the hardware store with two boys, and they're trying to pick out a Christmas tree. And I look over at him, and we kind of locked eyes a little bit. And I said, a good way to test a tree to make sure it's fresh is you just kind of grab it by the trunk and you tap it up and down gently, not too hard now, on the asphalt. See how many needles fall off. And the guy looks at me, he says, hey, thanks. I appreciate that. And that's what he did. He boom, 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 boom. I said to him, I think you got a good one. So, a happy Christmas to everybody. Have a wonderful, blessed Christmas. I wish you and your families the greatest Christmas ever with the freshest Christmas trees. And maybe a giant Christmas tree guy will come down your chimney. Hey, please be kind, be gentle, be very tolerant. Remember, Christmas kindness and all kindness is for free. Spread it around as much as you can. It can only make this world a better place. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this Christmas Eve special podcast and story of the old man's battle with a Christmas tree. And I just want to leave you to say, hey, these stories are these stories. I'm just a guy from Paterson, New Jersey, and I'm very proud of it. So here we go. Have a happy Christmas, everybody. Bye-bye for now.